Welcome. Thank you for your interest. I'm Dave, GeezerGeek if you like, making videos on things you can do with tech. And if you want to know a little bit more about me, then the video linked right up there at the top might be for you. And you can ask me questions too. Today, I'm dealing further with the Logitech c920 with Linux, specifically Ubuntu 2004. We're not considering Windows at this time. That's another video. We're doing the Logitech c920 with Ubuntu 2004 and specifically with OBS and GUVCView. We also are not looking at the Logitech app for using their camera because it is a Windows app. The interfaces I'm looking at today are generic interfaces that allow the user to tailor how the Linux apps work with their hardware, cameras and microphones. And it'll be the same interface regardless of the camera you're using. And the point is, you can use the c920 and use it well to its full ability on a Linux machine. As already said, I'm specifically using Ubuntu 2004, but I'm confident that these apps will work very similarly under any supported version release of Ubuntu, and I'm reasonably confident that the user experience will be similar in other distros as well. So because of what I've learned since last time and because of certain comments offered by helpful viewers, I wanted to return to the GUVC app and to OBS under Ubuntu and deal with the user interface in more detail. I made an offhand comment in a previous video wondering if my c920 had a problem. Someone picked up on that and agreed that it seemed that my camera was not functioning to specs. Well, what I've learned since and what I will show you puts that worry completely to rest. So here we go, starting with GUVCView. After starting this app, GUVCView, go to the video control tabs at the top. The very middle one is the one you want, video controls. Click on it. We see that my device has been identified. Now if you don't have an identified device there, just click on the box and see what it shows you. Pay attention to this fourth line first, camera output. Here I see options that do not appear in the OBS user interface. I'll come back to that a little bit later. OBS only offers me the first of these, the YUYV-YUYV4:2:2. And in OBS, the last three are offered as emulated. Now, GUVC defaults for me to MJPEG and to 720p at 30 FPS. There are reasons to keep those defaults, but if you want, you can change them. Now, there are other resolutions and other frame rates available with this setting, but for my purposes, I have decided these are going to be best for right now. And if I try to show you the other possibilities, it will mess up my screen that I've composed for doing this recording. So we'll just leave those for now. Suffice it to say that regardless of which of these you choose, which of these options you choose, you are going to have options here, and you can select which option you want to use. So as I said, pay attention to this line first. OBS only offers me the first one and then the last three as emulated. This option doesn't even appear in OBS. I have shown you the frame of GUVCView so that you can see right up here at the top, it is recording at 30 FPS. It'll fluctuate a little bit depending on what's happening. See, now it's down to 28.69. It'll fluctuate a little bit, but it is set for 30 FPS, and that's what it'll try to do. If I change these resolutions back to other frame rates, I still have the same FPS options here. It does not matter if I close this shutter Or if I change my available lighting in the room, all of those available frame rates remain the same. They are not a function of available light. Play with it yourself. Use different lighting. Close the shutter like I did. You will see they are independent of the lighting. Now, on this tab, some other options are available. These video filters, I leave you to explore those on your own. Have fun with them. Next, we want to go to image controls. So the first tab on the GUVCView controls is image controls. Now, you might prefer different settings to what I have chosen. Because of your different lighting setup, your personal taste, here's what I do. I set both brightness and saturation to 96. That seems to be producing a video that I like the looks of. Gain, I just generally don't bother with, but I turn off this white balance temperature auto, and then I do deliberately change this. I do not like the 4000 that is standard. I do not like that look. I think it's too orange. So I always shift it a little bit toward the blue. Usually around 3200 is good for me, but as I have said, this is this is going to depend on your setup, what will work best for you. So I think that works best for me. I always up my sharpness a little bit. It's standard at 120. I normally bump it, or 128. I normally bump it up to 160. I don't mess with the backlight compensation. You can mess with that if you want, see what it does. Exposure, I generally leave that the same. It doesn't seem to provide enough of a control that it's of interest to me. And then I have found that I can play with pan and tilt in this program. I'll show you. Boom. Okay. I do not have these options in OBS. The user interface is different. It's wonky in OBS. Autofocus, I generally leave both of these settings on. Zoom, I have found that I do like to zoom in a bit, and I can come in as close as 250. Probably 200 is okay for this. So I'll zoom out just a little bit. And then this control I do not have access to. It makes no difference how I set it in OBS. But with this, I can turn this to blink, and I can set this at 60 or at 10 or whatever I want, and the LED on the front of the camera flashes for me. That tells me it's running. Okay? I could set it to where it was auto, or I could set it to where it's on. I'm going to leave it on blink. That's my choice. But as I said, in OBS, that choice is not there. Those are the settings that I like. This GUVCView user interface is more effective than the OBS user interface. But before going there, I'd like to return to the V4L tools, which I suggested last time that you install. Once again, do not just willy-nilly type in terminal commands. Understand what you're doing. There are pranksters out there who will offer you terminal commands that are harmful. I'm not doing that, but how do you know? Research it, find out what they do, understand what these commands do before you use them. So open a terminal window and find out your video for Linux control options. Type in the v4l2-ctl-h command. v4l2 is the package you're asking for the controls, and you're asking for help. That's what the -h is. and it'll give you a list of the controls. It's fairly verbose. Spend some time studying it. Depending on your font size, your screen resolution, and other settings, it might take several screens to scroll down through it. Next, identify your camera, and this is the command you want for that. And I've also listed the option that will list your formats. Identify your camera and its video formats. Now, if you're using one camera, you can expect to see two video devices listed. In my experience, it's the first of these that you want to take note of. I don't yet know why a second one is listed. So let's look at the results from this one, the first one. That's what my video camera is. And we type in this command, b4l2-ctl-list formats. What is my camera capable of? We can get more detail from this command, b4l2-ctl-list formats -d, I think that says give the details, and then I'm specifying which camera. v4l2-control is communicating directly with the camera, reporting back its abilities. GUVCView works well with the camera, reporting back the same information in its GUI. In Ubuntu 20.04 and OBS 25.0.8, the user interface does not work as well. You can work with your camera directly in OBS despite these limitations, or you can use GUVCView as the video input for your recording session in OBS. Your choice. As you see, I'm using GUVCView as my video input this time. To avoid the very distracting infinite regression of windows that we'd otherwise get, I'm going to use Simple Screen Recorder to record the next bit of video. So, open OBS, start a new scene. To do that, you click on the plus in the lower left, and you pick a name for your scene. Name it whatever you like. Next, we need to add a source for our scene. Click the plus, select Video v4l2. Leave it on Create New, and name your device. OBS should automatically find your device. If not, click on the box and find it. Then look at that video format option. You can leave it unchanged, but if you do that, with the c920, your direct control options will be limited. For now, pick one of the others, and I'm suggesting either the BGR or one of the other emulated options. And let's select 720p for our resolution. Select 30 FPS. We have a list of controls below this similar to what we had in GUVCView. Again, tone down the brightness, the saturation, the white balance. None of this is strictly necessary right now, but if you do the tweaks now, you don't need to do them later. Done tweaking, then click OK. In your sources, right-click on your camera. Select Transform and click Fit to Screen. You can change this, including cropping as you wish. This just changes the fit of the camera input to match your composition page size. Now, if you don't see your video input, you might need to quit OBS and restart. I have found that peculiarity a few times. Now, cropping works a bit weird with your source transformed to fit the screen. Your cropped image will remain centered. To reposition it, click the handle or click the image, hold and drag. To crop, you click the handle in the middle of the side you're wanting to crop and use Alt and click that and drag it. Now, since I'm focusing on the camera controls, I'm not going to go through the other elements of composing your video from various sources. You'll want your microphone source, maybe you'll want some image sources, you might want to share a presentation from PowerPoint or the open source alternative from LibreOffice, Impress. You can pick multimedia players as inputs, etc. All of that is for another video, not this one. The camera controls are our interest today. So right-click on that camera source you have added and select Properties at the bottom of the list. Again, you see that menu of options that you saw while you were selecting your camera source. You see that I have the 920 selected, the video format previously selected, the resolution previously selected. If you want to keep the video format as YUYV 4:2:2, it is best to leave both resolution and frame rate as unchanged. If you open the options box there, you'll find only the lower frame rates available. From the research I have done, I have tentatively concluded that the OBS developers have hard-coded a basic set of controls for this particular camera, and to choose a different setting than those defaults that they have selected for this camera, you're going to limit some of the camera's abilities. If you leave it as YUYV, you lose some control. But if you select any of the emulated options, it is possible to specify higher frame rates. BGR3 allows us to specify the full camera ability or anything less, as do the other emulated options. .960 by 720 has low frame rates. Same thing for 1080p. At 800 by 600, I can finally select 24 FPS, and at 800 by 448, I can finally select 30 FPS. One more thing here. Return to YUYV 4:2:2. If you selected resolution leave unchanged, OBS thinks it can capture video at 50 or 60 FPS. Really? It's my understanding that this is far beyond the ability of the camera in any resolution. Take a look at the information from B4L2-control talking to the camera. Look at all those video options, the different sizes of different resolutions, the different frame rates that are available there. At no point does it offer 60 FPS. So the OBS user interface is wonky, and it's not as easy to use as the GUVCView interface, nor is the user as confident that they are getting the actual settings that they are trying to set. So, no, there's nothing wrong with my camera, and no, lighting is not responsible for low FPS settings. It's the OBS coding that gives these misleading results. Let me be perfectly clear here. I do not fault the OBS developers. They can hardly be expected to provide a custom interface for every camera on the market, least of all an interface with the look and feel of that provided by the manufacturer for a different operating system, such as Logitech has done for the Windows users. The OBS developers have produced a generic interface that functions with a variety of UVC-compliant cameras. Some of those cameras have received some special attention. For example, let me quote from their website concerning the Video Capture Device V4L2 plugin. From their website, since information about this plugin is spread all over the place, forum threads, Mantis bug tracker, etc., this thread aims to gather all the information relevant to the V4L2 Capture plugin. Known issues include the frame size, frame rate options are currently hard-coded for some devices. 2. There are problems with devices needing the V4L2 Compat library. 3. Interleaved formats are handled incorrectly. 4. Color space/range is currently handled incorrectly, and in parentheses, not at all. They know that their interface is wonky, and perhaps it may be tweaked over time, but it functions, so it may not get the attention. Once again, I do not fault OBS for what they've done, and I do not fault Logitech for the wonkiness in OBS either. They produced a webcam for use under Windows. At no point do they say that they support its use with Linux. They say it's compatible with Windows 10 or later, with Windows 8, with Windows 7. They also say it works in USB Video Device Class, UVC, mode, with supported video calling clients. Note, supported video calling clients. That includes in Mac OS 10.10 or later, Chrome OS, and Android version 5 or above. It requires a USB port and it requires internet connection. They continue. This is from Logitech. Visit your preferred video calling solution provider's website for exact information on system and performance requirements. Platform compatibility works with Skype, works with Google Hangouts, works with FaceTime for Mac. That's the extent. But the C920 as a UVC device does work with Linux, generally within the expected parameters as long as you can navigate your user interface to do so. OBS is just wonky. And though unmentioned, this camera also works well under Linux with a video client called Zoom, with some limited zooming. So you have that option as well. So yes, you can use the C920 and get good results in Linux. And to the extent that at any point I've not gotten good results, either it has been user error on my part, or the fact that I'm in my learning curve with the application that I'm working in, or something like that. And so I'm not getting optimal results. It's not the fault of the camera, and it's not the fault of Linux, and it's not the fault of the programs. The comment that I'd made regarding this camera, as compared to the no-name webcam that I'd reviewed earlier, that comment stands. The no-name camera had the surprising result of better capturing motion. Not that C920 is bad, just that the other one surprised me by being better. And the idea that it has something to do with lighting disregards both of these facts. The lighting was the same for both cameras, and we're dealing with user interface matters that are set regardless of available light. So now, the next video will be using the C920 and OBS in Windows. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope this one has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining at least. See you next time.